Hi, folks. Welcome to my next composing series. I thought since I had been doing these smaller videos featuring different libraries, doing a little short sketch, I thought it might be interesting to do a full song. And I'm going to do that with my probably most commonly known style of music, which is new age slash, relaxation or ambient, whatever you want to call it. And I'm also very well known for doing horror music, so I love that contrast. If I'm not feeling the new age, I can go to something really dark, or vice versa. But yeah, so I've been doing these little videos where I just compose a short sketch using some different sounds from mostly Eduardo libraries that I've been featuring. And I thought, why don't I just go ahead and, finish a song instead of just doing these little sketches to feature the library? How about I show my process, how I choose my sounds, how I go about things? And honestly, it's a little bit different every single time. If I'm writing, sometimes I start with percussion, sometimes I start with a pad, sometimes I start with a lead instrument. It all comes from different spots. So I'll be interested to see where this goes. However, before I get into the composition side of things, I thought it would be a good idea for those of you who are familiar with my other videos, or maybe not familiar with my work at all, would be a good idea to start with my setup, because I'm using something a little bit different this time. So those of you who have watched the other videos that I have done, you're going to see something a little bit different. And I'm going to go over all of that with you guys right now. When I start working on a new song, I don't know where I'm going to get my sounds. I don't know necessarily what all I want the song to be. It grows as it grows. So I often start with what I call my everything template, like you would have an everything bagel with all the different seasonings and toppings, even though they always leave off the cheese, because you can't have all those multiple cheeses and all the spices. Like, that just doesn't make sense. But the three main programs that I derive my sounds from are Engine, which is all of the Eduardo libraries come through the Engine template, or Engine sampler. I also use Contact, which you can get from Native Instruments. It's probably the biggest or most popular sampler. And then Play, which is the East-West sampler. Sounds Online is where you can get that. Interesting thing with them, I don't really get stuff from them very often these days, but they were like huge when I first started getting into virtual instruments. I started buying up all the Play libraries. Every time they went on sale, I would get as many as I could. A lot of that stuff I don't use now. They were distributing some other stuff at the time, and a lot of loops and stuff which I didn't really understand and I don't use. I experimented on a couple pieces with loops just to understand how they worked and understand how other people were writing, but they're not things that I use in my own compositions, except for those couple pieces where I was just playing around to see how they worked. Yeah, they're interesting, but to me, that's producing. That's not composing. And I like to think of myself as a composer. I actually write all my parts. So there's that. I don't create the sounds. I use people's libraries for that, but I don't use other people's compositions or mini parts or whatever and just loop them over and over again. That's clerking it to me as a composer. So for those of you who aren't familiar with Cakewalk by BandLab, which is the digital audio station that I use, over here we've got the different samplers that I've selected to work with. We've got Contact, Play, and Engine right over here. If I wanted to select something outside of those, like maybe, let's say, a guitar library, I could go over here to the Lounge Lizard or Strum Session or whatever. I've got so much that I don't even use. I've literally got hundreds of thousands of sounds in my libraries that, honestly, some you get with packs, some you get, free or discount or whatever. And a lot of them I just don't use, to be honest. These are honestly my three major go-tos. Contact is great because there's libraries that are made for Contact where they have, you put in the authorization, and it shows up in your main instrument feed. But then there's also other libraries that choose not to use that feature, but you still can sample. They're all WAV files or NKS files, and you can still sample those through Contact. I have a ton of those libraries. So again, like some I use, some I don't. Now, normally, because I use Contact the most, normally my template starts with Contact, which is why you see it here first. And Play and Engine are fairly interchangeable to me. I probably use Engine more, but when I designed the template, I was using Play more. But since this is going to be basically working with Nada to use to work on a song, I moved all the Engine tracks up to the top to make it easier to work with. Took a few minutes, but I did it. And then, of course, below that, so you can see here, Engine MIDI channel 8, and then we don't know what the patch name is going to be yet, so it's just a generic track 16. We're going to move all the way down. Now we've got all the play, all the setups for play, and then down here, all the setups for Contact. So just based on the 16 tracks or 16 MIDI channels that you get with each instance. If I wanted more, I could load a second instance of any of these samplers and go up to 32 channels, or 64, 128, whatever I wanted, as long as my memory in the computer can handle it. I'm currently working with 16 gigabytes of RAM and a 6-core 3.6, I think, gigahertz processor. So pretty good stuff. Now, I do want to point out that I'm going to stick primarily with Nada, but I'm using this template because I may want to filter in sounds from other libraries to write the song, because this isn't a demo as much for Nada as it is just on songwriting, but using Nada because that is a dedicated New Age library, and Eduardo does such a beautiful job with it. It's so easy to write with and get inspired and create with all these beautiful sounds. So I'm using that as the main template. But I might filter in some things from some other libraries for Spice. So if I wanted to do that, for example, I would need an additional MIDI channel and audio track, because eventually I'll bounce each one of these to an audio track. We'll get to that in the later phases of this series. But if I wanted to add something else, I would need a MIDI track. So I have to add a MIDI track. Then I would need an audio track to bounce to. So we're going to have an audio track. But what do I want to add? I don't know. Let's say I wanted to add a synthesizer. So we'll go here. One of my favorites, I love this one, is the ARP Odyssey. I got it from the Korg Legacy collection a couple of years ago, and actually filtered it into a couple of my existing songs. So now you'll see I'm adding that. You'll see it add down here in the bottom. And now I have the ARP Odyssey available to me. However, I can hit keys all day and it's not going to connect to that because I haven't assigned anything to go there yet. Whoops. So what I want to do is I want to go back to top. I'll go back to this track. Track 1 is going to be MIDI channel 1 because that is the first MIDI channel for the Odyssey. And then we're going to go over here and we're going to assign it. So our input is going to be our keyboard. And that is my M Audio USB Key Station 88ES. And we just put it on Omni because the VST itself will allow us to select what MIDI channel we're playing on. We're going to go here to the Odyssey. That's how we're going to assign it to this VST that we see right here. And then we want MIDI channel 1. So now if I were to play something, whatever patch it's on, boom. So now it's assigned. And there it is. But I don't know that I'm going to want anything from the Odyssey. So for the moment, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to delete this. I was just showing you can delete an individual track at a time. You can select multiple tracks. It's pretty convenient that way. You can also undo. But I also want to delete. Just go ahead and delete the whole synth for now. If I do decide I want something later on, I can just add it back in again. So that's how all of that works. I'll show you the engines very quickly. You guys are probably familiar with Engine. We'll get more into this as I get into the song because that's going to be the main focus of what we're going to work with. This is the Play engine, and I have multiple different libraries here. Had trouble with some of them since I've upgraded to Windows 10. Still working out some of the issues with that. But let's say that I wanted something from RAW. Let's say I wanted some shakers. You just pick the master library you want. RAW is like an ethnic library. And then these are the different subsets. They're based on this one. They're broken out by country of origin of the instrument. Let's say I wanted shakers. And let's say I'll do these just simple shakers right here. You can see the patch is loading. And boom, our GUI has changed. We're now working within RAW, and there it is. Oh, I'm on the wrong track, so that's not going to help. So we're in play. I want to go to play 1. Huh. Why is that not working? See, these, oh, you know why? Because it's not assigned. See, I set up the template and then I forgot to go in and assign all these things. That's not going to help anybody. Okay, so I'll do that before the next session because I'll have to. So it works the same as Engine. It works the same way as the ARP Odyssey does that we saw. And let's see here. Let's go down to one in Contact. And I'll show you guys what Contact is like. Again, this is probably the one that I spend the most time with. So these are the libraries that have gone ahead and either come with Contact, so they're already in there, or they're ones that you purchase and you put in that authorization and they show up on this list. You can move these around. You can expand them, shrink them to get access to the instruments. But you can also, if you have just regular WAV files, you can go here and to my virtual instruments, and then all these different libraries here. One of the ones that I commonly use, I absolutely love, is, and I'm not sure how to pronounce it. I think it's in Susuro, but there's tons of pads and things in here. I absolutely love these. Just go to Instruments. I'll just pick a Dreamy pad here real quick. And you get a nice GUI that comes up. Of course, I have to assign this track because I didn't think to do that ahead of time. Oh, wait, no, these are done. Yeah, those are already done. I must not have done the play ones. So here, but you have amazing control over your sound. How much of this sound do you want? How much of that sound do you want? You can blend them very, very easily. So I really like those. Outside of that, Contact has all kinds of different features and things that you can use. There's changing the shape of the waveform, or how the filters attack it. There's all different kinds of effects that you could put in, all kinds of things. It's a really, really cool program. So I know I'm not going to use this for this, so I'm just going to get rid of that for now. But basically, that's how that works. Very, very simple. Then you can just kind of get this out of the way, because once you've, unless you're selecting libraries, you really don't need that window at all. This one will keep, because this is how we're going to access everything. And then, so that's basically the setup for what we're going to work with. This is my Everything Bagel template. And then, of course, for those of you who have not seen this before, I'll go ahead and show it to you. This is my template for how I keep track of what sounds I'm using. Yes, I'm going to name them in the digital audio workstation, but there's so much that you don't see. I might have a sound in here and forget what I'm using it for, so I'll put that under part. Like, let's say, we're doing nada. And it is, we'll just say voices, and the patch name is, I'm just making this up. There's no patch name called Girl Harmony. And then, but I might not be using it for that. I might be using it for bass. So I might put in something like bass vocals or bass vocals, so that when I'm like, what was the sound I was using for that? I can go right to my sheet and it's right there. So I've matched this sheet to the template. So all the engine tracks are first. Oh, actually I didn't. I put Contact second, and I was going to move those there, but I didn't. So we'll just do this and this. I love Excel. I feel so underprepared. I thought I had everything ready to go. Okay, so we have Engine, Play, and Contact, just like we do in the Everything template. And then here we have whatever I'm going to call the song. I've just put this as an arbitrary title for now. The date I use is always the date that I complete the song, so we'll put this in at the very end. Same with copyright, and then whatever tempo we select, what key the song or keys the song is in, because it could be in more than one. Dedication is if I'm doing this for a specific project, like a film or a commercial or a library or something like that. I'll put that in, but since we're using this for the video, we can just go ahead and put that in there, because that's really what we're doing right now. That may change when I finish this track. It might end up on an album or a single somewhere. It might get attached to a video release of like an actual visual to match the song. I don't know. I have no idea where this is going. And then the time is how long is the final WAV and MP3 file. So we'll get into all that towards the end, how I do the production side of things. But for now, we'll go ahead and save this. Everything's ready to go. It's nice and clean. And I just move that over to my other monitor. And the next thing we'll do is we'll take a look at our libraries and we'll start picking sounds and we'll get going on the composition. So we will see you guys in the next video.